with the college football edition of Proline. Got John Cranton sitting in for Jeff Side. Jim Feist is here. We'll have our man on the street, H.K. Malaya, joining us in a little bit. My name's Dave Cokin. Two great games to look at. South Carolina and Georgia in the SEC, and then the annual battle between Notre Dame and Michigan. Tremendous matchup in the Midwest between two outstanding teams. Before we do that, let's get you updated with what we've got coming up this weekend. Some great stuff, and some terrific results to talk about as well. And Jim, start with you. It's an absolutely monster Saturday in continuation of what you did in the NFL preseason. I mean, nothing better than getting the season off to a terrific start. It really takes the pressure off, and you feel that confidence level soaring when you're playing with the other guy's money.
You know, I feel like it's the first inning of a baseball game. We're on the road. We just came up the bat and we got 10 runs at the top of the first, and I've got my best pitcher going. I feel pretty good about it. I had a goal of a six-figure August personally, and I almost made it. I was a couple 4 units short of that, and obviously, I mean, it was amazing. August was amazing. 9-3 on Saturday with all plays. 4-1 my top plays in college football, including 2-0 with the totals. Cal went over. Nevada went over. I got my high roller on Oklahoma State. I've had a 23-10 run with my NFL preseason high roller since 2011. Perfect 3-0 the last 2 weeks, cashing with the Lions and the Buccaneers, Dolphins under. Plus the Seahawks in week 4. 12-6 NFL run. Last chance for everybody to get on board for $79. You get all of my executive plays right through the Super Bowl for $79. It's $4.99 right there online, right here on this website, $4.99. But if you make the call to 1-866-841-1655, you get it for $79 plus an NFL Game of the Year, and a high roller release going tonight. 1-866-841-1655.
Well, I had my usual out-of-the-gate explosion with week 1 of the colleges. Very happy with the results. I didn't win all the games because there were a couple of opinions that didn't get there, but for the most part, it was really, really good. Maryland, Cincinnati, just to name a couple that were total blowout games, real easy winners. So I'm thrilled with the start to the season. Feel like my data is ahead of the curve already. And this weekend, what I'm going to do is get you in through Monday, NFL and college football for $29. That's going to include a couple of things. It's going to include a high roller window play. These sell for $500 online. So, they're for serious players. And you're going to get that, plus you're also going to get my college shocker of the month that goes on Saturday. And that's all included. So the $29 you're spending, that covers all this stuff. All you need to do, make one phone call, and we'll get you going with that big play tonight. 1-866-896-1629 is the number. That's 1-866-896-1629. John, sitting in for Jeff, and boy, I'll tell you what, he knocked him dead on Saturday in college football. That's nothing new. Jeff Side very quietly has built one of the best reputations around for versatility. I mean, he's solid in all the sports, and when he gets hot, watch out.
Yeah, Las Vegas Sports Service is a perfect 4-0 on Saturday in college. You had best bet winners on Northwestern and Western Kentucky. You can get 5 days of plays for Jeff, both NFL and college, for $19. You're also going to get a high roller play when you sign up, and that's going to include Sunday's AFC Total of the Month. Now, that Total of the Month is online right now at jimfeist.com for $25, but if you call the office, you can get $19. You can get that play along with 5 days of plays from Jeff. 1-866-575-8916.
All right, week 1 in the books in college football, and I think the most indelible impression to come out of the week was the last one we saw. Famous Jameis. What a performance by the Florida State. This is one of the best debuts you will ever see. He had 2 incompletions the entire night, and actually he only had 1 because they missed the call on one of those passes that was called incomplete. They ruled the guy was out of bounds. His left toe came down in bounds first before the right foot landed out of bounds. That pass was complete. Didn't matter. They scored in that possession anyway. But he was electrifying. Now, Pittsburgh's not the best defensive team in the world, but I don't care if you're playing a Pop Warner team, to have that kind of a performance on national TV in your first big game is amazing. He's already down to 10-1 at one of the offshore sports books to win the Heisman. Are you kidding me? So the question here is, could Florida State become a value fade moving forward because of all the hype that we're getting surrounding them coming out of this game with Pittsburgh? You know, it is going to influence the line. I don't know if it's value or whether they might be just that good, John.
Yeah, that was an electrifying performance. And the thing about Florida State coming into the season was the quarterback, because they had E.J. Manuel the previous 4 years. He was not only a 4-year starter, but he won 4 bowl games, highly unusual. Exactly. And but what we saw Monday, nobody's talking about that right now. And as for whether this team's going to be overvalued, high price teams, high profile teams, the odds makers, yeah, sometimes they can do it, but it's also a mixed bag too. I mean, the last 2 years, Alabama had winning spread records, 9-3 against the spread last year. 2 years ago, 7-6 ATS. If you want to go back to the Florida teams with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow, they were high profile teams. When they were defending champs in 07, they were 8-4 against the spread. And then when they won it all in 08, they were 11-1-1 against the spread. And that was with Tebow and Meyer. So you have to be careful. Florida State last year was picked in the top 5, as well as some publications had them number 1. And in the first game, they actually blew out Wake Forest 52-0. And it covered, obviously. Well, from that point on, they only won 3-8 ATS. So, as you mentioned, yeah, they seem to be overvalued. But history shows us that, Jim, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, too.
Well, you know, hats off, the young man that played in it. I watched that game. It was incredible. I mean, his performance was outrageous, to say the least. He's a young guy. And some people said when they watched him in practice, he was very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And they weren't that impressed with him. So nobody really, I'm not going to say nobody, but most people weren't prepared for that kind of performance. Now, he might not be a practice player. He might be like an Allen Iverson. Practice? What are you talking about, practice? But when he gets in a game, he lights up and he's got energy and electricity. So we're going to have to see. But he is a young guy, and young guys are subject to having, remember, he's getting a lot of press right now. He's reading his own press clippings. He's the star on campus. Let's see how he can handle that. Yeah, they're probably going to be overvalued because of he was a center of attention in that game, and he did exceptionally well. So the likelihood is there's going to be too much value on him. I'd probably fade him, but I also have to look at who they're playing at the time and how they're playing. I'm not going to fade him just because he's not going out on the field playing nobody. There's another team on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, these next few games, though, Nevada, no defense at all. Bethune-Cookman's a walkover. At Boston College, which is a bad team. We'll find out on October 5th. Maybe that's the spot where the value could come into play. Maryland's a very improved football team this year. And if they're laying a ton of points against Maryland, which they probably will be, maybe that'll be the spot to grab some value on the other side. Okay, before we get to Notre Dame and Michigan, we're going to check in with our East Coast man on the street. It's HK Malay with a free college football selection. HK, what do you got?
Thanks, guys. An early season showdown in the SEC East when Georgia takes on South Carolina. Between the hedges, the Dogs must bounce back from last week's loss to Clemson. That was a tough one. Well, the Gamecocks have had 9 days to prepare after beating North Carolina last Thursday night. South Carolina has covered 6 straight times in this matchup, the last 3 straight up. Will these streaks continue? Call for this free winner right now, 800-501-3500. It's Georgia, South Carolina, absolutely free from the team at Sports Betting Investments, 800-501-3500. All
right, thanks, HK, and welcome to the show. We're glad to have you with us. Let's get to Notre Dame and Michigan. Look, when you talk about rivalries, most of them are, excuse me, we're going with South Carolina, Georgia, actually. South Carolina, Georgia is where we're going here. And I actually went out of order, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. I misread the script that was laid out for me here. So let's go to South Carolina and Georgia right here. And look, here's what it comes down to for me on South Carolina and Georgia, guys. Georgia does this all the time. They've got a ton of talent. But they find a way not to win the big games. Yeah, the SEC last year, they got Alabama beaten. And they managed to screw up the clock at the end of the game and don't win the game. And that's just a continuation of what's happened. I think Mark Richt's obviously, look, the guy can coach football, okay? He's a good recruiter. His teams win a lot of games. But something happens in the big games, and Georgia finds a way not to win. Well, guess what? They're 0-1 to start the season because there they were against Clemson last week, and they found a way not to win the football game. They're matched up with South Carolina here. Gamecocks have had a couple of extra days to prep for this contest, which I think is big, and they had a lot easier first round of opening day game as well with North Carolina as opposed to what Georgia had to go through last week. Yeah, I think the scheduling dynamics and the Mark Richt history, to me, indicate that you got to look at the South Carolina side. By the way, I think the Gamecocks are also a better football team, John. So I got to go South Carolina to pull this game out.
I like the South Carolina team, too. They're well coached. They got a powerful defense. And I like the fact that the defense was winded last week, and Steve Spurrier actually called them out. So it's a bit of a motivational spot for the defense. They might have a chip on their shoulder. With the Georgia Bulldogs, sometimes teams for an entire season, things go their way. Either they're injury free or they just happen to win a lot of close games. We think of Notre Dame last year going 12-0, winning a whole bunch of close games. Georgia Bulldogs were kind of like that. They had 3 close games against Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida last year, won them all, and they only lost 1 regular season game. Well, now here they are with only 3 starters back on defense. That defense got smoked last week by Clemson, giving up 467 yards, 169 rushing. They lost the game, so they've already lost here at the first week of September, same amount of games they lost all last regular season. And some of the injuries, too, that are cropping up. Gurley, the running back, hurt his quad, and their top wide receiver, Mitchell, he blew his knee out last week. They were already down. They had already lost to graduation, their top wide receiver, and Mitchell was going to replace him. Well, now he's out for the season. And that offensive line for the Bulldogs gave up 4 sacks to Aaron Murray, and here comes the great South Carolina front. So it's a very difficult matchup for Georgia, and it could be a very tough start. I agree that Georgia should be favored, but boy, I like South Carolina to win this game and put some hurt on the Bulldogs at 0-2.
John, I totally agree with you. I think Georgia has lost too much, and their defense just looks like they're going to get rolled over. South Carolina beat them up real good last year, their only loss, and it sets up a great revenge spot for Georgia, but I think South Carolina is a better team, and I think they're going to prove it on the field this week, and I don't think it's going to be all that tough. I know it's a tough venue going down there and playing in Georgia, but South Carolina has been able to handle this team. They certainly handled them last year. I think it was 35-7. Georgia gave up a lot of points last week, albeit it was on the road at Clemson, which is a good team. But South Carolina is going to come to this game. I see 3.5 points out there, which I think is way too high. I see a lot of 3s, but I also see some places at 3.5, and I personally have grabbed that.
Well, now let's move to that great rivalry. Notre Dame and Michigan. They've been doing this for a long time. Last year, this was a real slugfest. 13-6, Notre Dame wins it. They were favored by about 6 in that game, so they actually covered the spread in that low-scoring game. Irish coming off a 12-1 season. Of course, the last memory of them was getting just stomped by Alabama in the so-called championship game. It was so-called because there was only one championship-caliber team in that game, and it was Alabama. Notre Dame was kind of lucky to be there. Irish get out of the gate okay with a win in their first game. Michigan only 8-5 a year ago. But Brady Hoke has clearly got this team in the right direction, and they just destroyed Central Michigan last week. Now, that's a bad football team they played. So, you take it with a grain of salt. But here's this is going to be a really fascinating battle to me because, John, I'll tell you what, my numbers say Notre Dame's 3 points better at Michigan. Just on my number, I have Notre Dame a 3-point favorite. But I don't necessarily trust the number because I like so much what Al Borges is doing with the Michigan offense. You know, we're in this age of everybody speeding things up and getting to the line as quickly as possible and running as many plays as possible. Borges decided with his personnel, we're going to go in the other direction. We're going to pound teams into submission with physical strength. We're going to slow it down, run pro set. I think this team's going to be really tough to prepare for from that standpoint as well. If I'm going to do anything with this game, might very well be on the total, and I do think you're going to see mid-40s here, so I might end up doing something on that. I handicapped the game to about 45 points. That might be one of my edges. I think picking a side, my numbers say one thing, and my gut tells me another, John.
Yeah, I'm going to, the number that I don't agree with is the total in this one. I don't think it should be over 50. There's Notre Dame defense. I mean, last year, Alabama and Notre Dame last year were the dominant defenses. They were 1 and 2 all season long. And this Notre Dame defense has 8 starters back. They dominated Temple, allowing 6 points last week. They're expected to be one of the top defenses again in the country. It's the Irish offense that I have some concern with, and that's the quarterback, Tommy Rees. I mean, his one full season in 2011, he had 20 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, not outstanding. He hasn't really been Brian Kelly's first choice. I mean, he couldn't beat out the freshman in Golson last year. And let's face it, if the kid was still here, Reese wouldn't be the starter. Michigan, it's a run-oriented offense. They had a couple of turnovers last week against Central Michigan. Last 2 years against Notre Dame, 9 turnovers. But what I really like about Michigan, though, is the defense. Ever since Greg Madison came aboard with Brady Hoke, well, his defense has just been phenomenal. It's easy to forget that when Rich Rodriguez was at Michigan, their defense was horrendous. They couldn't stop anybody. So Madison came over from the Baltimore Ravens, helped to bring in a really dominant defensive unit. Last year's game was 13-6. Notre Dame won. And keep in mind, when the Irish go on the road, they're 23-9-1 under the total. Jim, that's the way I look at this game, a very low-scoring game.
I totally agree. I've already bet the game under, and I did that earlier in the week. This is, Dave, and I know you're going to be able to comment on this. I'm looking at it right now. I got the full screen in front of me, probably 25 different books. I'm looking at 3.5 everywhere. But the game opened at 4. It opened 4, it's 3.5 everywhere, but 70% of the bets are on Michigan. So that you got all the public on Michigan, but the game went down. So you know what that indicates, and it's what we call reverse line move, and that means someone came in. The Sharps came in and bought the 4 because they liked the number. They might not like the side, but they like the number, and that's what the Sharps do. They play numbers. So 4 was inviting to them, and they put enough money on it to drive it down to 3.5. But most of the bets are on Michigan. Personally, I lean to Michigan, but I didn't bet it. But I definitely bet the under.
Yeah, I think that's the way to play, and we'll get to the best bets, which I'm going to stay right with this one. I go a lot off my numbers, especially on totals, and this one, as I mentioned before, I think it's the right number in this game is 45. Well, look where the total is in the game. There's no question that's playable for me, and so under Notre Dame, Michigan. I want you to get in and take advantage of this terrific first full weekend of NFL regular season and second weekend of college football special. You're going to play through Monday, both the NFL and college football, all for $29. A couple of big bonuses that you're going to get. My high roller window game tonight, and that is a big-time play. It sells for a nickel online. And my college shocker of the month on Saturday, which is what it is. What it says it is. It's an underdog that's going to win the game outright. You won't need the points. So that's a money line play on Saturday on my shocker of the month. $29 for everything at 1-866-896-1629, 1-866-896-1629. Also a reminder, I should have reminded myself to do this on the NFL version of the show, but I forgot. But I will remind everybody now, you can get free plays every day from me via text message. All you have to do is text Cokin, C-O-K-I-N, to 313131, and you'll get back that day's free play in a text message. It's real easy. And, I have to tell you, the free plays going back to March of last year, March of 2012, you're looking at about 90 games on the right side of 500. That's a pretty big profit margin. And those plays are free. So again, Cokin at 31, 31, 31. And Jim, they can also get your free plays via text message every day. Same deal. Obviously, they don't text it to Cokin. That wouldn't make much sense. But they can get your free plays. And in addition, they can take advantage of what is an awesome offer for this weekend in college and pro football.
You're right about the free plays, Dave, and thank you for reminding me. You text WINNER, that's singular, WINNER to 31, 31, 31, and you'll get free plays each and every day. And like Dave, they've been very, very successful over the years. Now, as far as my special this week, $79, and the last time I'm going to offer this, $79 executive service plays right through the Super Bowl, plus an NFL Game of the Year, which has 11-2 since 1999 on those, and a high roller release, which I'm 23-10 on. So you definitely want to get on board. You can buy it right here online. That's fine too for $4.99, and I definitely would appreciate you doing that. But if you want to get the bargain at $79, you can call 1-866-841-1655. And my best bet, definitely, without a doubt, is the Michigan-Notre Dame game under the total. I have made a substantial play on that game already, and I suggest you do too.
John, Jeff Side, LVSS, coming off a perfect 4-0 in the colleges on Saturday. Best bet winners on Northwestern, Western Kentucky, and he's got a 5-day NFL and college football deal that is just, it's dirt cheap is the only way I can put it.
That's right. Notre Dame, when they play non-conference opponents, 34-16-2 under the total. So I'll make it a trifecta, guys. Best bet Notre Dame, Michigan under the total. If you want to get 5 days of plays from Las Vegas Sports Services and Jeff Sod, 5 days of plays for $19, you call 1-866-575-8916. You're going to get a high roller bonus when you sign up, including Jeff's AFC total of the month that's online available now at jimfeist.com for $25, but for $19, if you call the office, you'll get 5 days of plays in NFL and college. 1-866-575-8916. All
right. Well, there you go. We got the unanimous best bet in the first week of the college football season. And you know what?
Sweet.
We actually did pretty well with these last year. When we all came out on the same side with the best bet. So, go for it. Under Notre Dame and Michigan. We'll be back with another college football edition next week. Plus, don't forget to check out the NFL version of Proline as well. We do 2 different shows every week at this time of season. For HK Malay, John Cranton, Jeff Saad, Jim Feist, I'm Dave Cokin. Thanks a lot for watching. Make those phone calls. Make the phones ring. We'll win you a lot of money this weekend. See you later.
Bye, everybody.